Welcome to another episode of looking at F3N set maneuvers. This time it's the case of the Piro Rainbow X Traversal. This has been in F3N for quite a long time, at least since 2016. It used to be an 11.5, it's now dropped to an 11K factor, and that was in 2020. You hover on the center line at an angle of 45 degrees, and then you do 4 rainbows to each corner. And in that rainbow you do 2 pirouettes, and you reverse the direction at the very top of the arc. At the end of each arc, you should stop level, but you should not hover. And then on the arc back, you should do the same thing. 2 pirouettes in opposite directions. And then you finish with a hover in the center at the same 45 degrees that you started at. So let's have a look at one on the simulator. Still a very difficult and highly rated maneuver in F3N. Let's go into a breakdown. So you're going to hover at 45 degrees. The caller says start. You hover for 1 second, and then you go into your first rainbow. That's a left pirouette. Right at the top, changes to a right pirouette. Stop at the bottom, level, no hovering. Left pirouette on the way up. Right pirouette on the way down. Same thing. So these arcs have got to be in sequence. You can do them clockwise, anti-clockwise, but you can't skip across. Left rudder, stop. Right rudder, stop. So you'll see it's a full pirouette. So I've got the nose away. And at the reversal, I've got the nose away still. And at the other end, I've done a flip. So I'm nose in. And you can see it coming back now. And then back to the 45. Left rudder. Right rudder, stop, left rudder, right rudder, stop and hover for 1 second, and the caller will call complete. That was my preferred way of doing them. If you read the description carefully, there are variations or changes that you can make and still be within the rules. So the model starts off with a 45-degree hover. Ideally, you choose your strongest hovering position, because at the end of each arc, you're going to be returning to this. You can do nose in as well, either to the right or the left, as long as it's at 45 degrees. Another variation you could make is the pirouetting directions on the way up and back. In the first version, I went left rudder, right rudder, and then on the return arc, left rudder, right rudder. But the rules do allow you to go, for example, so left rudder, stop, and then right rudder, left rudder. The only reason I'm highlighting this is if you have a problem going from left rudder all the way across to right rudder, and the model might move around a bit, you are actually allowed to just keep doing the same rudder direction. So there I'm landing left rudder, and then I'm just going to take off left rudder again to the same. That's right rudder, and then carry on with right rudder. You are allowed to do that. I've not actually seen anyone do it that way, but it is possible. So how do you go about learning this maneuver? The way that I started was I used the Piro trainer, and I just did the maneuver really, really slowly. You get used to all of the stick positions and all of the orientations, but you're having to micro-control the helicopter. You really have to make sure that it's going over correctly. The main shaft is going exactly in the plane that you want it to. And if you look at the main shaft here, it's going to come back at 45 degrees. It's just going to come over nicely. And this is actually really hard. It's a lot harder than just learning the muscle memory and going around. The other thing you want to do is you also want to make sure you're hitting the mark. So here I'm horizontal. As you've done half a Piro, you want to be at 45. And then once you get to the full Piro, you should be vertical. There I've done half a Piro, I'm down at 45, and now I'm horizontal. So if you really concentrate on hitting those marks and those cues, it'll make a big difference. The interesting thing is initially you'll just start, it'll feel like you're just making corrections. But after a while you actually start to, you almost pull back a bit and you're just looking at the model and you're just flying the model and you don't have to be so hyper-focused. So definitely the slow Piro trainer is a really good way of doing it. You want to make sure that main shaft goes over nice and straight, because when you're flying this maneuver, you're actually going to be direct in the main shaft, because that's how you create a nice round arc. Once you've got those down, you can do the Piro trainer and you can do a little bit quicker. And the idea behind doing quicker is that you were able to control the model when you were doing it super slow, and now you're actually able to do it without thinking. If you can get to this point, it means you've got really good control and you're ready to do it for real. And you just want to make sure that the main shaft is going really nicely over and you're hitting the vertical and the 45-degree marks. While I was investigating this, I found something in HeliX called the flight path. I've not actually used this other than playing around with it now. When you move, it leaves a flight path behind it. You do your arc, you change your direction, you come back and you try and stay on the flight path that you originally went up on. It's an interesting idea. I don't necessarily think it'll be that useful, but it's worth, if you're struggling or you want to play around, I think it's probably worth something, just going and trying something like this. But the slow Piro trainer should really make the biggest difference. So if you want to see more of these, subscribe or follow me on Facebook. Also, all of my training materials you'll find on the rchelicopterhub.com. Good luck.